Welcome to Stitch the Season 2025. Today is the first video in our fabric workshop series, and there'll be 13 videos. Today's video focuses on the supplies and the materials that we're going to use and creating the structure for our fabric book so that in the next video we can start the slow stitching. This is a very fun process and I hope you'll join me. Included is a link to a download if you'd like to purchase the downloadable printable that you can print onto fabric and use in your work. It has Christmas sayings. There's also a list of the instructions for this workshop, as well as a bonus printable if you would like some more religious-based words for your book. I just think it's a lovely addition. It's not necessary at all. So let's get started right away with the measurements, the size, the fabric, and the options you might want to use. So for the supplies, the first thing I have is a download. It's completely optional. It is not required. All the information will be given throughout this workshop. But if you wanted something succinct or something you can refer back to, the download at my Etsy shop is the way to go. It's very inexpensive. First thing it comes with is the actual measurements we're going to use for our book. And I give you the measurements for the one I used with the raw edges. And I give the measurements in case you want a nice, neat folded edge. Then there are two downloads that you can print. You can print it onto just regular copy paper to use in mixed media. I printed it onto fabric paper, and I'm going to use these as labels, and I'll explain those as the process goes on. But I could not find fabric or ribbon with all the words I wanted. So I created my own, and you can use that in your downloads. And then there's a final page, which basically gives the entire workshop by step, succinctly, so that you can refer back to it. If you want to pause, it's a good place to just check off where you are at. So let's get started with our book today. So the first part is always the fun part for me, and that's very inspiring, and that is choosing the fabric. I like to go with a color scheme. It's not necessary. I think each year it brightens it up and makes it a little new to have different colors or different patterns, but you do what you like. Some years I like it really whimsical and childish. Some years I want it a little more elegant and subtle. And this year is one of those. So I have these two fabrics. One's old and one I just purchased. This one, if you can barely see, it has text all over it, which I love text, but it's very hard to see. So when I received it and found that it was hard to read, I changed my plans. This wasn't going to be the focal point. This was just going to be a background. But I had this fabric. This one, they're both beige. This one's a little warmer. And then I loved how it looked with the darker red. So I have some of these fabrics. And then traditionally I'll throw in a little dark green. I'm not sure which side of these fabrics I'll use. I kind of like both of them. This is the other side. And then I have a white pattern, white on white. I will play around, probably add additional fabric, but this is my jumping off point. To that end, I also have ribbons and accessories. Let me quickly show you those. So just like with the fabric, I get carried away with ribbons. I just love this, all this different texture and appearance. It's just beautiful. I love the laciness and the openness of this lightweight ribbon, this lace. And I love, for Christmas time, velvet and interesting fabrics, texture. And this very lightweight little torn fabric edge, which will go perfect for me this year. I also wanted to include other things. So I have a little pin I found at a thrift store of a cute little gingerbread man, and you can use any type of pin. I have my thread that I put on just little wooden cutouts of gingerbread men. I have some beads, different sizes, some buttons, some rings that I'll use. This gorgeous ribbon. It's not really red, but it is so beautiful. Gosh, I want to use this. And then I have some bells, both of the little ding-dong bells here that you would ring, and just miniature bells. I love when the book has a little noise, a little texture. I also wanted to include possibly some other things. So what I do is I get a big tray or a crate, and I just keep loading it with things that inspire me. And then I try and choose from that crate what I want to use. So In a shorts video, I showed how I might use these plush ornaments in my book. Now they're pretty thick, but all the work's done for me, so I can just cut them apart and use them if I want. These are some from this year. Thought this was beautiful. And then from years past. Again, the color scheme coordinates, so I might salvage this somehow. I'll have a video that shows how I make these little postage stamps with a gingerbread theme that I'm going to use in my book. I found this little thing at a thrift store. I think it might be some kind of beaded patch. I'm not really sure, but appropriate for Christmas. And then I have some scraps of fabric that I've saved through the years. This came from a fabric book I made in the years past. This was just fabric, but I just love the patterns. I'm not sure I'll use them, but I cut out each of the pieces. I put some fusible adhesive on the back, like an interfacing. And when I'm ready to use it, I'll just peel it off. This will cut down on the fraying, but it allows me to use these pieces for applique. To that effect, I save little text pieces. I find text very hard to find. This was from one piece of fabric. This was the selvage on another, and so on. When I find fabric that has little sections, I just cut them out and save them. This one has the adhesive backing on it. This one doesn't. And this is part of the fabric. So I like to just kind of collect these things throughout the year. And this goes right here in this little box, and I can pull it out as needed. Now let's get to starting our book. So I have the fabric that I selected, and I cut it out according to the size. I'll quickly review it, but it'll be in the class description as well as the download. So this is for the pocket. It's just a rectangle,
cut 2 by 9 inches.
And that's because I wanted the raw edge. If you want to fold the edge to make a neater edge, just add an inch to your measurements. I cut out 4 pages, again rectangles, so that they'll be front and back to pages. This is just the background. Now the fabric itself is beautiful, but we're going to embellish it further, and it's going to look like this when it's folded. So I have 4 pages, and when you peruse through the pages, you get quite a few there. And these pages are 4.5 by 7 inches. So you need 4 of those. For the covers, I decided to do different fabric. Same measurements, 5.5 by 9 inches. And I might trim that down further. But the 9 inches gives me a little bit of leeway when the pages are inside the book. And that way, if I want to fill the pages with a lot of filling, I have it covered. And if I don't, I can always just cut it down. But I used my print fabric, some batting, and then my cover fabric. You can use batting on any of the pages if you want, or the pocket, or not. Now I reinforce these with just some fusible backing. This is just interfacing, and it prevents fraying. It gives a little heft to the fabric. You don't need it. I buy it in a roll because I go through so much of it. But you can use fusible interfacing. You can omit it altogether. You could use scrap fabric, or you could use batting. So you have lots of options if you want to go that route. So now that we have our fabric cut out, the first stage of sewing begins. I like to create the skeleton of the book, and then I can start embellishing. And so by cutting out all the fabric, we're partially there. But one thing I like to do, especially on the cover, is I line up my pieces. So I have my batting sandwiched in here, my inside fabric. I take a moment and line it up, and then I'm going to fold it. This just gives me this center fold. Now, if it's thick, I'm going to make this fold have a little heft to it. But for now, I'm just going to crease it, just finger pressing it. And I open it and I see my little line. I'm going to take a ruler and just put that line there so I know it's there. And then I'll pin this together. Now again, I make sure everything's lined up. And I'm just putting my pins outward here. And again, if If your fabric slips, just fix it. This is the time to do that. And I'll put a pin on the bottom as well. And now I want to baste my spine. I'm not going to baste around the edging. I'm going to baste on either side of this spine that I created that line from. And I do that by hand. You can also do that by machine. It's up to you. So before I start basting it, I take my beeswax. I have my needle threaded and knotted, and I just run it through the beeswax. You can do that a couple of times if you want. I find that one time is usually good. So now to baste it, I like to go on either side of the spine that we created. This is optional, but I like to just tuck my thread inside here. I start somewhere in the middle of the fabric. And that way the knot is hidden. It's not a big deal if it's not. You can always just start it so that the knot is on the inside of the book. But now I'll just stitch around, just in a straight stitch. You can use any type of stitch you want. And I'll go up and down each side of that spine that we created. That just reinforces it. It's just a light little basting stitch. And then when I'm done with my last stitch, I'll just make a tiny little knot and trim that off. And now I can remove the pins so I don't get poked. And I have my cover that I'm ready to embellish. So that's the beginning of this fabric book. It doesn't have to line up perfectly, but I've got some stitches in place. I can choose to cover these up with fabric later if I want, or just let them be exposed. I do like the look of a hand-stitched book. The next thing I want to do is work on my pages. I have my fabrics for my pages and my pocket. I'm going to line up the fabrics just like this, and I'm going to pin them together just to keep them in place. It's not anything that I'm going to stitch on just yet. I'll do the same thing here, making sure that the wrong sides are facing each other. Now, the reason I don't stitch these together yet is because I want to be able to embellish them and not have my stitches go through the back. So here I have my pocket on the inside of one of the sets of pages. I chose to make the fabric on this pocket far longer than the page because after I stitch it down, if I want to put something in the pocket, I need to have a little give. Don't need to have a lot of give, but enough that I can stitch it around and then trim it off. So on the page with the pocket, I have my 2 pages lined up. Play around with that until I get the right shape. And again, it may require some trimming. That looks pretty good. And then I fold my pocket in half. And I fold my page in half because that's how I'm going to line them up. So I fold it in half. And again, I can make that line down the center. Make the line down the center of this pocket as well. And now, instead of stitching these pages together, I'm just going to stitch right down the center here. I'm not going to stitch on either side of the line, just down the center. So I'll pin it together and stitch it. So there I have it stitched right down the center. I can remove the pins, and then I can fold my page. So I have one page ready to be embellished, and the second page pinned together because I find it's easier if I don't need to stitch down the middle just yet. So that's the first stages of creating this fabric book. Be sure to post your work on our Facebook page. I'd love to see the fabrics you've chosen, the colors, and the patterns. So those are the supplies that I'm going to use. Might add a few more from things I find around the house as needed, but I am off to a great start. Can't wait to see your work. I hope you'll post it in our Facebook group. And thanks for joining me today.